Challenge is to capture 100 square kilometers. We can do this in one flight in about 2 hours.
The military ammunition depot fire near Ichnia began on the night of Tuesday, October 9th. The fire engulfed nearly 700 hectares, and during the day, 12,500 people were evacuated from a 16-kilometer zone surrounding the depot. A day later, the Ministry of Defense reported that the fire had been extinguished. However, random explosions are still being reported in the area. The French Interior Minister said the death toll from flash floods that tore through towns in southwest France has nearly doubled to 13. One person is missing and 5 others are seriously hurt. The officials said the death toll could still rise further. Video showed waters coursing through French towns and villages with cars stranded in the floods and piled up on top of each other like children's toys. The French government rushed hundreds of rescue workers into flash flood zones and helicopters buzzed overhead. Flood waters were in some cases too powerful for emergency services to get through. At a summit in Luxembourg, EU members will discuss the disappearance of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The Washington Post correspondent went missing when he visited the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd. Turkish officials fear he was killed and dismembered as he was never seen leaving the premises. Here's what the EU chief had to say.
Iran expects full investigations from the authorities of Saudi Arabia, full cooperation with the Turkish authorities, in line with what also our main partners and allies have expressed, mainly in Washington but elsewhere.
And in related news, cleaning staff were seen entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on Monday ahead of a joint so-called inspection of the building by Turkey and Saudi Arabia later today. The planned inspection comes nearly 2 weeks after the disappearance of the Washington Post columnist. Turkish officials have said they fear a Saudi hit team killed the journalist for criticizing the Saudi crown prince. The kingdom has called such allegations, quote, baseless, but has not offered any evidence that the journalist ever left the consulate. And now, to continue our series on Ukraine's Invictus Games team, learn about 2 inspiring veterans and their journey to Sydney, Australia, in this next story.
I want to reach those military comrades who recently returned from the front line and became emotionally withdrawn.
37-year-old Andriy Usach served the 80th Lviv Air Mobile Brigade. He was wounded in the battle for the Luhansk airport. Andriy will compete in archery and indoor rowing in the 2018 Invictus Games, hosted in Sydney, Australia. 4 years ago, Andriy Usach didn't believe he would survive. Seriously, soldier was evacuated from Luhansk by Russian forces.
I was evacuated on the 4th day because there was no possibility to do it earlier. We were surrounded by militants. 1 day, 2 days. I was just lying on the ground. It was very difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel. There was such a moment when I really lost hope and did not see myself surviving.
Andriy counted up to 20 surgeries and then stopped counting. He spoke about how many surgeries he underwent between 2014 and 2017. Having some breaks between surgeries, he used his free time to work out and train.
When I'm in a bad mood or when from time to time there are echoes of war, I do archery and it helps me to get out of the bad mood. I was pleasantly surprised when I did not hold a bow for a year, and then in the national selection I was in the top 10. I was even more motivated considering the little experience that I have and that I didn't lose it during the break. Oh, I'm obsessed with it. I can stop doing it now. I really like it. I finally understand why the Japanese call archery an art.
Serhiy Simchak, 40 years old, veteran of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, On the front line, he developed Epstein-Barr syndrome, a rare and serious autoimmune disorder. He will compete in archery and cycling. The disease left him almost completely paralyzed. Since 2015, his training has helped him to struggle with the consequences of the disease.
I carry out trainings at least 5 times a week for 4 hours. I have no private life.
Serhiy jokes and laughs a lot, but as soon as he draws his bow, he keeps a straight face. The ability to concentrate was a skill Serhiy learned at war. Serhiy was a sniper on the front line.
Job specifics of the archer and the sniper are almost the same. There are the same difficulties. It requires concentration and confidence, and everything else is classified.
Serhiy calls archery the philosophy of his life. After the Invictus Games, he intends to try his hand at the Paralympics 2020. Archer Maya Moskvich is the only female player in the male-dominated team. Each workout for her is a small victory. She overcame the difficulties of war, but it turned out to be more difficult to overcome fears as a civilian. Watch another story from our series, The Ukrainian National Team at the Invictus Games, tomorrow.
And we end the hour